Welcome to your online source for calculator tutorials. In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to produce a scatter plot. If you watched the entering univariate and bivariate data tutorial, then you will have no doubt noticed the list that we're going to be working with in today's tutorial. If you go to Stat and Edit, bringing up the list environment, you'll see that the data we entered last time was in L1, the responses from a scale of 1 to 10, and in L2, the frequency of those responses. If you do not have this data entered into your calculator, then you can quickly access it from the previous tutorial and enter it. I will scroll down to give everyone a chance to look at the data and enter it on their own. Remember, you can always pause and rewind this tutorial to pick up any data you might have missed. Alright, once all the data is entered, you can quit out of the menu by going to the stat plot, second y equal. The stat plot is the location for basically plotting any sort of data environments on the calculator, most of which will come from the list menu. So by default, all the plots are turned off. We can turn on the first plot by hitting enter. That'll take us into the plot. I can turn the plot on, and then by default the type selected is this set of dots, which we call scatter plot. So turn the plot on, make sure it's on a scatter plot. We know that our x values come from L1 and our y values are coming from list 2, so there's very little else that we need to do here. Alright, once that's finished, you could just hit graph, but if you do that, it's going to give us the standard window, and the standard window is probably not good here. So let's go into the window to set up our settings. And there you go, right there. We didn't have any negative x values, and yet it's going to show us from negative 10 to 10. So we should start that out at 0, and we'll go up to, let's say, 12. Now I know the responses only go to 10, but I'm just going a little bit further than I have to show everything. Alright, in terms of the y values represented the frequency of the responses, and if you go back and look at the data, none of the responses were larger than, I believe, 33. So I think I'll be fine in starting with 0 and working my way up to, let's say, 40. And I can change my scale to go by 5s. Now if I go in to look at the graph menu, you'll see several different data points all arranged nice and neat on the graph. This is an example of what's called a scatter plot. If I wanted to, from this position, I could hit the trace button and jump from data point to data point to remember what those points were. For example, here I'm on x equal to 5, so that's the people that ranked this a 5, and there were 9 of those people. You can see how generally it tends to trend upward. We'll learn more about making predictions based off data later in the semester, but at this point it kind of gives you the sense that as you increase the ranking, in other words, as you get closer to ranking at a 10, more and more people generally seem to like the product. This is the kind of thing that you look for in all sorts of marketing and business ventures, is predicting trends in the data or analyzing the data, and a scatter plot's a great tool to be able to do that. This concludes our producing scatter plot tutorial. Feel free to replay this tutorial or browse any of the other available topics on the course webpage.